You're listening to Ka-Pow, the pop culture podcast, comics, television, movies, and more. If it impacts fan culture, we have something to say about it. And now, your hosts, Michael, Jordan, Cliff, and Seth.
Hi, this is illustrious Michael K. Easton.
Illustrious Michael K. Easton. Good to see you. My name's Jordan Liv.
Cliff Barnes.
I'm Seth. How's everybody?
Warmed up. Ready to knock this one out.
All right. Well, Cliff, speaking of knocking them out, I wanted to give you some credit.
Nice.
I was listening to the most recent Riverdale episode we did, and the production quality is through the roof.
Appreciate it.
Cliff.
Yeah, no, wait a minute. I want to stop for a minute. Cliff, this is high praise. I never heard that before.
Cliff, the production quality is through the roof. Yeah, I just listened. I was like, he really just takes the time and he pumps these episodes out. First off, we never have to fret and complain.
I need to leave right now.
This isn't about you. I don't know why.
I
You feel like this is about you. Jeez.
I feel like it's always about me.
Cliff is
that says more about you than the rest of us.
Yeah, really. Cliff is killing it. He's learned all these doohickeys, how to use. He's the Donatello of our group. He what do they say about he uses machines?
Donatello does machines.
He does machines. We got Jordanardo leads. Donatello does machines. I guess that makes me Raphael. I'm cool but rude. Give me a break. Michael is a
Easton
party dude.
A party dude.
That's right.
Cowabunga!
There you go.
Honestly, that would. If I got cool but rude on my tombstone, that may be the best I could ever get. But really, I don't always listen back to our episodes because I lived it, but it's worth it. It makes it worth it for us to listen because you go back and it's like, wow, there's all this new stuff. And it really sounds good. It was good, very good.
Well, I have to admit, I probably take a little extra time on those Riverdale episodes.
Well, I'm sure.
So we're still waiting to catch on. Riverdale's a massive fandom, and one of these days somebody's going to notice us and the love we put into that.
They're going to be like, I can't believe I never discovered these guys.
Because you know what? You don't want to be the guy sitting there watching BBC and saying, "Oh, I saw that guy. He was my waiter, and I totally dismissed him like everyone else does in his life. And I totally was wrong because he's a major, major, major influence on me now, and I feel terrible."
Like the unrequited love that we never get returned.
They use more copyrighted material than any other podcast I've ever listened to.
And again, our often stated disclaimer that we don't really expect you to listen to every episode. If you're a Riverdale fan, you might just listen to those. You might just listen to the movie reviews, or we put out way too much crap for everyone. If you listen to everything we do, God bless you because you are an amazing fan.
We'll give you $1.
Yeah. We owe you $1.
Yeah. No, it's it's been what anniversary are we on now, this podcast?
Yeah, we never even talked about that. I just in Facebook memories, something reminded me it's our 5th anniversary, April something or other.
Yeah.
5 years ago since we started Ka-Pow proper. I believe we had started the So Pro version a little earlier, but Ka-Pow is 5 years and running.
Different producer back then.
The editing was never as good.
Or timely.
Oh, but I mean, if anybody did that 270 sometimes, then I would expect you would probably be better than I am at this. So But it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's fun to edit. I enjoy editing the episodes because, believe it or not, there's a lot of stuff I don't pick up on. And like, I'll listen back to it and I'm like, oh, how did I must not, I was spacing out. I wasn't even listening to this. And I was like, oh, I missed that little comment.
Especially on Zoom, because it's harder to pick up who's trying to talk, and like sometimes we talk over each other. A lot of times we talk over each other, interrupt each other. So yeah, there's stuff I don't hear someone kind of say off the cuff because I'm like, it's just a second delay and a awkward way to do this. But
yeah.
All right, let's get to it.
Okay.
Well, speaking of green lizards that are mutants, no, it's not a teenager, but we had a big movie drop this week on HBO Max and theaters. Let's talk movies.
Save Martha! Puny God.
I'm just a kid from Brooklyn. I'm Batman.
Kneel before Zod! On the roof!
Said it yourself, bitch. We're the Guardians of the Galaxy.
So what's it gonna be, huh? Long sullen silence? Or mean comment? Go on.
You got me in a box here.
Godzilla versus Kong.
This is our only chance. We have to take it. We need Kong. The world needs him to stop what's coming. And this child, she's the only one he'll communicate with.
I knew that they had a bond. She had nowhere to go, so I made a promise to protect her. And I think that in some way, Kong did the same. Godzilla.
Made $122 million in the theaters.
Wow.
This is kind of the first hit of the pandemic era, which isn't over yet. We should probably remind folks it's still going on, even though we're all getting those vaccines. But some theaters are open back up, and people wanted to get out and see this one on the big screen, I guess.
Yeah, I'll admit I have not watched this. But that day it came out, I saw, friend of show Russ, has been a guest a couple times. He had watched it, I think the day it premiered. And then somebody at my work had asked me, oh, are you going to go see the new Godzilla versus Kong? And I was like, why would I do that? I have HBO Max. Like, I'm going to watch that thing at home, man. So
yeah, I have not seen. But there was Skull Island, was the one Kong movie before this, and then two other Godzilla movies before this.
Yeah, there was Godzilla by itself, and then there was Godzilla King of Monsters, I think.
Yeah, so I haven't seen any of those, but this one was on HBO, so it's easy to, it was. I didn't have to go out of my way to see it, so I said, hey, it's a monster movie, I'll check it out.
Well, I remember the last one that came out because we kind of had high praise for it. Michael had seen it in IMAX.
Yeah.
And
I watched Kong in IMAX.
Skull Island that he watched. That's the one.
Yeah. Wasn't that the last one?
No, King of the Monsters was the last one.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I missed that one somehow. So
it got pretty bad reviews.
Did it? Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of Kong Skull Island.
What were your hopes for this one, Michael? Were you high hopes?
I mean, it was pretty much exactly what I expected it to be, but I thought what was really neat about all these properties is that the mythology that they've woven between all these movies, like, kind of comes to a head in this one.
That's why I was kind of confused, because I didn't expect there to be mythology and lore.
Yeah.
I figured it was a monkey versus a lizard, and I didn't have to catch up on a whole lot. But there is a history to it all that I don't know how well they explained it for me not catching up.
Well, I mean, you really kind of needed to see the last Godzilla movie for this to make a little bit more sense because of what happens in that movie. But it's basically that there's always been like a number one apex predator, and they can sense each other, and that, you know, like in the last one with the King of the Monsters, who was the King of the Monsters, and there's I forget the name of it, but there was like a 3-headed dragon creature that Godzilla fought, and then
King Ghidorah.
Yeah, and they figure out that he's a space alien. He is not from Earth. So that's where this takes.
Oh dang, Ronald B. Trump! I'll pull his face.
Yeah, he's an alien. He's not of this Earth. So the only complaint I actually have about this movie is there should not have been any actors in this at all. Like it didn't need that at all. It kind of like took you out of the movie in places because they had such bigger name actors that had to have screen time.
Who was in this,
really,
Michael?
Well, it had
Millie Bobby Brown.
Yeah.
Okay.
I liked it had the Brian Tyree Henry from Atlanta as the conspiracy theory guy. Yeah. And I liked his role, and he was with Millie Bobby Brown and that kid from New Zealand who was in Deadpool 2.
Yeah.
Those three as a comedic trio were good. But yeah, who else? Kyle Chandler, whoever else. There wasn't much for them to do. Rebecca Hall.
Is that the guy from Friday Night Lights?
Yeah.
He's in all the Godzilla movies.
Have they written these as their own universe, or is that, I mean, I'm not very familiar with like kaiju movies, so like the old Japanese, the Toho monster movies, did they have much of a story other than big lizard smashes city, that type of thing?
The original
was an alien. I mean, he already told you.
But, yeah, like this one they actually this whole mythology hits my sweet spot because they talk about Middle Earth or Inner Earth, Hollow Earth, that whole conspiracy of this is the reason why Kong has never battled Godzilla before in this mythology is because he was always on Skull Island, and it kept him hidden from being detected by Godzilla. And that's something they talk about is they're bringing Kong off the island to find the entrance into Inner Earth, where they believe all these monsters originated from.
So yeah, the effects were fine, a little underwhelming on my small screen here at home. The story didn't matter. But like for an almost 2-hour running time, the actual Godzilla versus Kong, there was probably only 15-20 minutes of actual battling, and the rest was like who's going where and we got to get this mission into Hollow Earth, and just wasted. There was kind of a wasted opportunity of what people what they're paying for the ticket for.
But see, I prepared for this because I knew I was watching this at home, and I have. With my Roku TV, I have these two wireless speakers that I think it's like ONN is the brand name. I swear it's like a Walmart brand, but anyway,
it is.
Yeah. They seamlessly connect with the any type of Roku. Well, there's also a subwoofer, and I was like, I have got to get this.
Once I got my sound system and subwoofer, it's life changing. It's so much more fun to watch a movie.
I am getting this, I've put off for over a year of getting the subwoofer for this set. I was like, this is the movie to watch this. My wife, on the other hand, can come down here and tell you how much she hated this movie because I had this house shaking. It was so loud.
Sitting on the subwoofer?
I was like laying on my couch watching this. I had the green lights behind the TV screen. Like, I mean, I had the whole atmosphere kicking in. At one point, I think Christy just came in and looked at me and said, I am in my bedroom and I cannot watch TV because this is so loud.
It'll be all right. Every once in a while, you ought to be able to sit down there and blast a movie.
Right.
Well, I did.
Say, go back to your room.
I did find like I did have to play it with some settings because what would happen is like the voices would be low, so I'd have to turn it up. And then like as soon as the monsters came in, it was super loud, so I had to play with a little bit to get it to all equalized. But it was awesome.
He is more excited about this than when he gave his IMAX speech.
I was all for this. It was like the like, how much are we giving away of this movie anyway?
Who
like,
cares?
Should we? Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. Well, the whole thing, like they've set up is that there's can only be one king of the monsters, and in the last one,
it's Highlander.
Yeah, in the last one, it was the 3-headed dragon alien, whatever his name was that Jordan said.
Mm-hmm.
In this one, they built a Mecha Godzilla, but they used the skull from one of the 3-headed dragons to tap into building this. So as they're like using basically the creature's brainwaves, Godzilla is picking up on this. And so he is attacking these installations where they're building this stuff. And that's where like Millie is like Team Godzilla and like, no, he's a good guy. And there's a reason why he's attacking. And then like you have these people over here with Kong that have like kept him in this confinement. And they're like, he's a good guy. And you have a little girl that like signs to him and everything.
I guess that's where the movie lost me, where it was like making them heroes and like they're important to the world. It's like, no, I would be okay with killing all of them. Like they're giant scary monsters. Like why do we have to be nice to them?
That's where like there's one scene that like completely threw me out of the movie, but I really thoroughly enjoyed this movie. But
we could tell
with having actual people in this, there's a scene where they're out on seas and they're on this big like warship and they've got Kong strapped down and they have all these other battle cruisers like following them, and they have like Godzilla like has this big battle with him. Only the like main cruiser that has Kong on it survives. All these other blow up, and all those people that are on this ship, they're just like, onward with the mission. Like they could give a crap. All these people just died. And it's the same thing in the final scene, like when they're battling and stuff. I mean, they're just blowing up. I mean, millions of people are dying.
That's a feature, not a bug, for a lot of these movies. That's what people are for. They want the destruction.
But I mean, it was good.
So if you're gonna, set the scene, if you're gonna do the LED lights like a theater, have your own home theater, you got the subwoofer and the speakers, then that makes it worth it.
I suggest you have got to watch this with a subwoofer.
Well, I would say.
All right, you can only watch Skull Island on IMAX, and you can only watch this one with a subwoofer.
Well, like Michael, I would say it is whatever price you have to pay for a soundbar with a subwoofer is worth it.
Oh yeah, yeah,
it's totally worth it. It's just it far outweighs any price. It is so worth it. I mean, you can get great deals if you watch a couple $100, you can have that, and it is so worth it. It just changes the whole experience.
All right, is that it for that movie?
Yeah.
So speaking of home theaters, I want to take that opportunity to segue. The news this week: Netflix has lost 31% of U.S. market share this year.
Wow.
So you think of this past year, 2020. The whole theme of this year was like, well, let's just stay home and watch Netflix. Like that was the overriding attitude of 2020. Netflix and chill.
Exactly.
And they did They surpassed 200 million subscribers, so they hit a new record high, but they've still lost market share. So they were at 29% market share of U.S. households, and they're now down to 20%, which is not as much about Netflix failing as all these other places popping up. So
Yeah.
Prime has 16% market share. So yeah, Netflix has dropped that far, and they're still number one at 20%. Prime is 16%, Hulu 13%, HBO Max already at 12%, ahead of Disney Plus at 11%. And these new ones, Peacock has 5%, Apple TV Plus has 5%, Paramount Plus has 3%.
I pretty much have all of those except Netflix. I dumped Netflix a couple months ago because they never have anything I want to watch. Occasionally, like there are things, but I'm just kind of writing them down, and I'll pick it up here when something comes I just need to watch, and I'll catch up.
You notice that Netflix is the most expensive one out of all.
Yeah, it's not worth it compared to the other ones. It's not worth it.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing is for and I totally get that. Like for a lot, especially families out there that have cut that cord, they can get a Hulu and a Disney Plus for the price they can get Netflix.
And Netflix has went hard on murder docs and teeny bopper shows. It's all about all these like teen shows I don't care about. I don't care.
You're not watching Ginny and Georgia?
A lot of foreign content they're trying to get, outside of America. They're trying to get a lot.
There's no old movies. Anything you can't get anything pre-70s, pre-80s. I mean,
yeah, I'm not quite sure how you measure market share when it's not. Most people aren't all or nothing with one. It's like most people have a mixture of these, if they have any of them.
Yeah.
But they put out they kind of knew this was coming, so Netflix put out the letter to their shareholders. Quote, "This is in part why we have been moving so quickly to grow and further strengthen our original content library across a wide range of genres and nations." So basically saying we knew all these other things are growing, so they're putting more into original content to kind of stymie that. And to me it hasn't been working. It hasn't been working.
Yeah.
Right. But they just announced news, I believe it was today, they just secured a multi-year streaming rights to Sony films. Anybody catch that news?
Yeah,
like Spider-Man and stuff,
Yeah, so they've got a 5-year deal beginning with next year's movie, so 2022 movies. The rights, they call it the first pay window or whatever the industry term is. So following the theatrical or the video on demand window, it's usually about 18 months. We'll start getting straight to Netflix. So Sony doesn't have a direct to consumer service. Disney has their own thing. NBC Universal now, Viacom, CBS has Paramount. So Sony doesn't have that. So it was a strategic thing for both of them. Netflix needs more content, and Sony needs a distributor.
Yeah.
So they had a deal. They were
Sony
with
Crackle.
Doesn't what?
Crackle.
Exactly.
Crackle.
I would have to double check that because I have no idea.
Do you have Crackle?
Once upon a time.
Are you on Crackle?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I crackled.
Sony signed a deal with Jingle Jangle.
Yeah.
But Sony, since 2006, Sony's had a deal with Starz, the premium pay channel, which more people have Crackle than have Starz. So all these Spider-Man movies and stuff were coming out on Starz. So beginning on Netflix is a way bigger audience. So I think it's a win-win for both of them. I said some of the earliest ones, the Spider-Man sequels, the Spider-Verse sequel, Morbius, the Uncharted movie based on the video game. So those are going to be big blockbusters in 2022 that'll then go straight to Netflix maybe a year after theaters. And it said they can license some of the older Sony movies, and then Netflix was going to kick in money to help produce movies that if there may be smaller budgets that might go straight to streaming. So it definitely seems like a win-win for, if Netflix is on the decline, Sony needs a partner. Seems like a win-win for end consumers too. So
The exciting Netflix news I liked this week was when they gave $450 million to Ryan Johnson for Knives Out 2 and 3.
I saw that.
I didn't hear that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, because he had the rights to that property, like it's his.
Yeah.
So he's making some bank here.
Because the first one was out on Amazon first, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And it's and that I'm so excited to see who those casts are going to be. Like it won't have anybody repeating except Daniel Craig, because it's he's just the inspector. He's the through line. I would expect very soon we will start seeing cast announcement. Like I remember when they were announcing the first cast and they're like Michael Shannon, Chris Evans, Jamie Lee Curtis, Don John. I'm just like, this sounds so great. So I'm ready for that again. Hope he'll find a new slew of people. But I love that.
Any other movies you've been watching?
I'm sure you guys just, Cliff, you got an Apple phone here recently. I got my Apple phone a few months ago, got a new one and got some free Apple Plus TV.
Yeah, I did too. I have not activated it yet. I was.
Have you not seen Ted Lasso? First off,
no, not yet.
Watch Ted Lasso.
Yes, you'll love it.
It's so up your alley. I think it's just it's the most positive show, and it's funny. And Jason Sudeikis is funny. You have to watch that.
Yeah, I like Sudeikis.
But there's a Billie Eilish documentary, which I didn't know much about. I mean, I obviously heard her music over the last couple years, and she keeps winning Grammys. But they did a pretty long documentary. It's like almost 2.5 hours on there. But I like those where you see behind the scenes of, almost anybody. It's kind of interesting when you see their how the inner workings go.
I don't think I'm pretty sure I haven't seen that, but I did watch at one point. I did watch something kind of similar with her and her brother Phineas, and they went back to the house they grew up in with her mom, showing their room and how they produced all those huge.
This
hits.
is the footage of them at that time. Like they had footage from them, making her big albums and stuff, living in that house, like when she was becoming famous. And it's kind of amazing that they stayed in that house for so long, while she's incredibly rich
in this little
famous
room.
I mean, she can't even fit. She can get whatever car she wants and can barely fit it in their driveway. But
man, that could have been us guys in that little room making hits
in the bunker. But it's really good, and that her brother is. I mean, obviously she's talented, but he is
the
really
man behind
good.
the scene. Yeah,
She is lucky to have that guy. He is quite a talent, and it's just excellent. It's so long. There's an intermission, which whatever. But it's kind of neat to have that little break in the center. But it's just a really great behind the scenes documentary showing how she's got Tourette's and she's like dealing with just being a young girl. Like it's so funny to watch this famous, talented person, and she's just dealing with teenage stuff. And it's like you can tell she kind of craves it a little bit, like having like boy problems or something. It's like she needs to be able to act like a teenager. I'm sure. It was very good. I recommend it if you like those kind of things. It's a good documentary.
I watched. It came to Netflix. Bad Trip was kind of the big thing. I want to watch that.
That's the only thing on my Netflix list.
Can you just hit that on switch for me?
No. Oh my God, turn it off. Oh, I'm gonna get fired again. Oh, give me your jacket. Jacket. Why?
You seen these dudes right here? They stole my car.
The police are right there, though.
They're not helping at all. You know what? Sometimes you just gotta.
Holy shit. I'm sinking. Go get some butter.
finally time for that road trip. I'm talking NYC.
Yeah. Shouldn't have taken my sister's car, man. She's crazy. He will kill us. Keep your mouth shut. Snitches get stitches.
So this is Eric Andre, the comedian, and it's a fictional movie, but it's also kind of a prank. It's like a Borat type film where he's interacting with real people in a fictionalized story. So this was supposed to debut at South by Southwest this year and then come out in theaters in April, but nothing came out in theaters. So it went directly to Netflix. So it was supposed to be a big screen movie, but so it's Eric Andre and Lil Rel Howery, the comedian, probably Get Out, maybe his most famous movie, and then Tiffany Haddish. So I don't understand how you could do a prank movie where Eric Andre is pretty famous, but Tiffany Haddish is very famous, and they kind of disguise her a little bit. She'll wear like a hooded sweatshirt with the hood up. She's got fake tattoos. Her hair's on cornrows, but like if I heard her say two words, I'm like, is that Tiffany Haddish? Like, she's so recognizable. I don't know how they tricked anyone into thinking she was a real person, but I guess suspension of disbelief.
Yeah, people just don't expect it like that. Even like, I hate Impractical Jokers, by the way, but I'm bringing them up. I don't know how people don't recognize them when they go do stuff.
Right. They've been on the air for 12 years.
Right.
Yeah, the movie, it's funny. It made me laugh quite a bit. There's barely any story. It's just he's trying to get to New York. It's a road trip. And they just, every stop along the way, something crazy happens. And they do it in front of people. And it's either really gross or really violent or really crazy. And they just get reactions from people to see what happens. But it's not my favorite kind of pranks. I like weird or silly or out there stuff. But like, if someone just comes running at you in a grocery store covered in blood and it's like what are you what's the reaction you're supposed to have? Like, how do we haha, that person reacted? It's like, of course you reacted. I thought I was going to die.
Yeah.
So there's several things where like there's either, it seems like there's going to be violence happen, car crashes and explosions, like a gorilla escaping at the zoo. Like, people could have been mauled by a wild gorilla. So like, people like, and then of course over the credits it shows them laughing. You're like, oh, you really got me. So it shows people laughing about it later. But it's like, if I was involved, I don't think I'd be enjoying the a threat of imminent death or dismemberment or something. But it is very funny. It's very gross. It's very out there. There's things I don't know how Eric Andre has no shame. I don't know how he can do or say some certain things in public to people. I'll never understand, but it's definitely worth a watch for sure.
Well, I definitely can't see Jordan Lowe doing a prank show.
No.
Can you imagine? Excuse me. Your shoes untied.
I love shoot, I can't remember the name of it. It was a British show years ago on cable. And it was just, everything was absurd. Like, an elevator would open and it'd be a bunch of people in costumes. Like, it was string quartet.
Yeah.
People like, what? What's going on? Or like that, it'd be like a waiter and a guy eating Italian food sitting in and they both look at you like, what are you doing here? Like, I like absurdists. No one's going to die.
That's way more your speed. I could see you pulling off one of those crazy pranks.
Yeah, jumping off roofs and crashing cars through walls. Like, I think I'm going to die right now. It's not funny to me. But I'm not involved in it, so I can laugh at it.
Seth mentioned a few episodes ago, we hadn't talked about it since, that Kid 90 movie and on Hulu. And I had watched it, I think, the next day after we recorded that episode.
That's a great, good thing to go along with my Billie Eilish thing. If you like a documentary thing, watching somebody living their life, that's a good one.
Yeah, so many, that group of 90s kids, like, much like I was, I'm sure, Michael can relate to this too. And it brought up so much. I was just like, oh my gosh, that's
exactly what I was telling Christy.
Yeah. Like
when I was watching it, it brought up so many memories.
It gave you that vibe from that time period so well in her videos, and the fact that she hadn't seen him for all those years. And then, I'm just seeing these stars from these shows and movies that I watched growing up, and in regular teenage 90s situations, you know. I thought it was cool. It was a fun thing because I had been watching, you know, we talked about Punky Brewster and that coming back, and I'd been watching that, and then this thing popped up, and I was just like, oh my God, this is amazing.
The whole time I watched it, I thought I've never needed to tell Cliff to watch something so bad. Like, this is the most Cliff thing I could find.
Yeah, it was good. It was really good.
Yeah, it was. I was really into watching that, and it was kind of bittersweet because that's what I was like telling Christy. I was like, you know, you take all the fame and all that part out of it. I was like, that's exactly how my life was during the '90s, and you know, unfortunately, you had those friends that, you know, didn't survive, and
yeah,
I mean, there was a few dark moments in there, and I was like, that. I mean, that's pretty much how the '90s were for that youth culture.
Definitely.
That's a good segue into some television documentaries. If we're done with the movie segment, we can switch to TV.
What in the good Lord is going on?
Nothing. Them just some fellas I play car pranks with.
The worst thing about prison was the Dementors.
Nobody exists on purpose. Nobody belongs anywhere. Everybody's gonna die.
There are no strings on me.
So if you want to make more money and keep the money that you make, better call Saul.
He looks like a panda and a Disney princess had a baby.
Somebody royally forked up. Somebody forked up.
Randall! Okay, see you, Roof!
First, I thought you and the others were gods. Then I realized you're just men. And I know men.
You guys, look at my dirty girl.
Roll on snare drum. Curtain.
Good joke.
Sure.
HBO's had a couple documentaries. Get Allen versus Farrow was a 4-part documentary about Woody Allen and the history there. I'm not entirely sure why I watched this.
I watched it.
Yeah, I want to know why.
I like to punish myself.
Right. It was. I mean, it's an interesting story. It's important pop culture history, but I don't like Woody Allen that much, and I certainly don't like him.
I like him less. I like him less now. That's
so. This is basically like the stories have been out there for years about sexual abuse of Mia Farrow's daughter Dylan when she was 7, and this movie or documentary just tracks kind of how he steamrolled, used the media, used lawyers, used his own fame to just kind of steamroll through it and be like, yeah, Mia is really crazy. She's trying to keep me away from my kids. And it's just gross. And what the movie's about is gross, but what Woody Allen did to get out of facing consequences is even grosser. And it's definitely ties into what's going on currently with the Me Too movement and all that stuff, how powerful people don't always face consequences. And it's there you go. Here's another example of it.
I'd heard a couple people talking about this, and I think it was described as, you know, cringe for most of it. I saw it had come out. I didn't watch it. Like you said, I just couldn't put myself through it.
Yeah, it was. Well, I'm glad I watched it, I guess. But I don't think it was like, you already know. Yeah. You know, you don't know as many details until you watch this, and it mostly just it's sad. It's just sad that the whole thing happened. It's not a feel good documentary. But we'll go on.
Well, you get a lot of the home videos. And it contrasts it with Woody Allen, his audiobook. So he just released an autobiography a few years ago, and him just blasé talking about, well, here's what happened back then. So it was just, it was very difficult. But you get at least Dylan got to speak her own mind. Like, as a kid, she didn't get to tell her story, but so now she got to go back and tell. But I think what really got me is, like, I had never seen a Woody Allen movie when this happened. This was like 93, something like that, when the allegations first hit. So like my entire movie viewing life, this story's been out there.
Uh-huh.
And I've watched a bunch of Woody Allen movies and didn't really know all that. I mean, I think that's why I watched the documentary, was like, why didn't I know more about this? And I had hoped it would go into more of I think of like Jay Leno would tell jokes. Oh, Woody and Soon-Yi at the Knicks game. No, he's gonna steal your daughter. Like, it was a joke almost.
Mm-hmm.
How he likes young women, and half of Woody Allen's movies are about an old guy and a young woman. And it's like, this has just been public knowledge for 30 years. And it's like, I'm a movie fan, and I've watched a ton of Woody Allen movies. I've paid money to watch Woody Allen movies. I've paid him money, and it's like, what, it's only now are we getting to the point of like, we shouldn't have to do that, and like,
crazy.
And it's, you might call it cancel culture, but like, finally the victims are having some say of not having to see their abusers be rich, famous celebrities anymore, and just get them out of the public eye and go away forever. Woody Allen.
Yes, agreed. You've been banished.
My hot take. But I assumed you want to talk more about the other HBO documentary.
That was equally cringy.
Yes, very cringy.
I'm sure you cannot be talking about the Q documentary.
Yeah, what's it called?
Into the Storm. 6 hours, 6-part documentary.
Wow.
Anybody I'll show them Q-proofs, say, look, talk me out of it.
Have you heard of the Q? The what?
QAnon?
What had started in an online forum had crawled out from behind the screen to the seat of power, all with the help of a single letter.
And we're gonna win big. You just watch.
In 2018, I set out to chart Q's origins.
I wrote the first part of 8chan while I was coming off of psychedelic mushrooms.
You can really find yourself falling down a hole trying to find out who Q is. I'm pretty sure Q is a spin-off from Star Trek.
Q is whatever you want it to be. Sometimes they'll even think it's me.
I have a question. You're going through a possible list of who Q might be.
That's right. You're on the list.
Well, let's continue then.
Dangerous ideas. That's a scary idea.
People conspiracy theorize about things that they think are powerful.
What did we conspire against?
Followers try to discredit reporters because we're required to find out if it's true or not.
It seems like Q's gone mainstream.
They don't care about all the people dying. They're lunatics running the asylum.
You can't expect to get counterpunched.
We have to go. We need to move.
Game over.
This Q thing is just exponential growth.
I think people are worried it's going to be used to radicalize more people.
Do you think that is warranted?
I got through 2 of them.
An episode and a half was all I could take, and I my understanding was it got better as it went along, but maybe I'm wrong.
Good. Yeah, I guess. Yeah. Did you watch much of it, Jordan?
Yeah, I watched the whole thing.
Yeah, so did I. I watched the whole thing. I wasn't going to watch any of it, and then I heard. I basically was spoiled for how it ended, and so I was like, "Oh, I'll watch it with that, knowing that." Go on.
Well, I was just going to say, I have frequented. It's fascinating to me. It has been for a while. Like, there are Reddit boards out there and forums about how this QAnon conspiracy cult has ripped apart families. It's, marriages, parents from their children. And I've been following, those stories from just regular people for a long time. And there are people I know in the same situation. But so I had heard that name thrown out a bunch of times as it's probably this guy, or at least we're pretty sure he's involved.
Yeah. It would also, if you just wanted to learn, how many times have we heard about 2chan, 4chan, 8chan, just to really see the people behind these and see how they were, who ran these things, who created them. That was interesting to me, just to know what actually is this, who are the people behind them. And it was interesting to see that. And
how one led to another, how it led into politics, how it led into the media, and what happened just this past January. And
It was interesting.
They spent
sure.
3 years filming this, and I almost feel like I know why they wanted to release it now when it's so topical, but I feel like it needs more time. Like, I don't feel like we even now know enough or have figured out the long-term repercussions of all this. Like, it's all still happening right now. People still believe this stuff.
That constant moving goalpost with their theories. I mean, it's this date, this is going to happen, and then that date comes, and of course it doesn't happen, but then they're already on to, no, it's going to happen on this date, and, April, we went from January 6th, January 20th, March 1st, March 20th, April 1st, and it's like never ending.
And there's a whole network of people who have made careers telling you the theories and breaking, like we do Riverdale.
Yeah. Right.
Think about if Riverdale was a cult.
It's too soon for that documentary, Jordan.
I will say the one thing
we're still theorizing.
I did find funny is one of the episodes I watched. There was a couple of them talking about they were going to be on a panel at a conference, and then like they got canceled or whatever, and they're showing it like a camera view, and there's like no one in the audience, and they're trying to say like they shut them down. I'm like, nobody showed up for your BS.
But that is contrasted to the end of the series.
They go back later. Yeah. And it's a packed
house. You have to go
with...
back and watch this crap.
You go back later and it's not empty anymore.
It's a packed house, huh? Yeah.
And it's very informative. It's almost like it almost doesn't have enough distance. We're like, this guy built their trust. Cullen Hoback is the director, producer, camera guy, investigator. And the guy calls him to help him move. He's like, I got to get out of the country. Can you come help me move? Like, he becomes friends with these guys. So it's hard to do an investigation like that when he is also so involved. He's probably the only mainstream media person they talk to even. And everybody's playing a game. Everybody's winking and trying to be clever. And that's what threw me the most was like Q. And I hope we haven't really explained what QAnon is, so I think people know it's not a fringe thing anymore. But that idea that there's a global cabal of Satan worshiping pedophiles who are kidnapping children and drinking their blood.
And they're getting this information from Q, who is supposedly a Q level, which is just a super high level person in the who was like in Trump's cabinet, who was
right in the White House, front row seat to everything.
Knew all the behind the scenes. Knew that there was pedophiles and Pizzagate and all this. It's all true.
And is promising they're all about to be rounded up and jailed, and it's going to happen soon. The storm is coming. Whatever. So, but okay, if it starts as an internet thing. A small belief, but it's grown. It's impacted the world.
Yeah,
it has had huge consequences for America and the globe, and that's what I'm thinking. Like, okay, if Q is Steve Bannon, Michael Flynn, Stephen Miller, if it's someone who's already is a powerful figure, okay, that's one thing. But if it's one of these idiots, if it's one of these clowns who did it as kind of a joke, wink, wink. The media will buy anything I tell them, and has had this
traffic
much
to their website
just to be famous and win the internet and get some internet traffic. And you have influenced the world in such a negative way. You've gotten people killed. And if Q is just one of these guys pulling a prank, that's worse. Like, reality as it is bad. But if it all is just a meme, that's so much worse.
Yeah, it's worth watching. I will say that it's disappointing a little bit in the fact that it focuses so much on these particular people that are just a bunch of winking idiots.
Mm-hmm.
When I would have liked to see, even though it's cringy to watch, I would have liked to see a little more of the crazy, a little more of the people that were.
That's what I was looking for.
You see a sprinkling of them, but you don't see as much of the theorizing and what went behind January 6th as I was hoping to see, because there's so much It's just focusing on, is this guy Q? Is he not Q? Is he? You know.
Yeah, I felt like I said, from what I've followed, the more, I don't want to say more interesting, but the tragic story here is all the regular people that buy into this bullshit, and it's destroyed their lives, and they don't even realize it.
Well, like I've said to you guys, I have a friend I work with that his in-law like believes that stuff completely, and like he was sharing me messages of when he went and got vaccinated, and I mean, she was just like, he's like, he got so bad, he told me, he's like, I think I'm gonna have to change my will, like this, like, yeah. I mean, it's insane. This right here just goes to show you that people really will believe anything.
Yeah.
Like, and you can take any type of crazy thing and read into it and draw your own conclusions and make it into something that it's not. Like,
just wait a couple more years until we have till the video stuff is perfected of putting whoever's face on whoever you want to. It's almost there now.
The deep fakes. Yeah. It's gonna blow up so badly.
If they believe this stuff now, wait till the deep fakes really start coming out.
It's not a huge leap. To start with, the gateway drug is, the government. You can't trust everything the government does. People in power are lying to you. Billionaires play by different rules. Yeah, we all know that. Yeah. And it's not. Then you start sprinkling in the other stuff. We got to save the children. There's human trafficking, which there is, and then you just I don't know how deep. Then you go deeper down the rabbit hole, and then I don't know where you make the leap from something credible and believable to complete nonsense, but it seems to have happened, and a lot of people are in the orbit. I don't know if they're profiting off it or whatever, but they don't. Their actions, they have not. The people in this documentary, at least, have very little care what they have wrought.
Mm-hmm.
Well, sadly, what happens is when things come to light that have some shreds of truth, like with the Jeff Epstein thing that came out, and all these powerful people.
He knows him really well. He's buddies with him.
I knew you were going to say something. I knew. I was waiting on it.
I noticed all that crap. This old Jeff Epstein.
Is that not his name?
Jeffrey Epstein.
Jeffrey.
The rest of us treat him a little more formal.
To his friends, JJ.
Yeah. But I mean, all the stuff that came out, or is still coming out, that stuff like that has some truth to it, so people start buying into it more. Just on a weird, really strange, because the one of the conspiracies of them talking about drinking the blood of babies to keep their youth. I just saw a scientific article where it said that there might be something into the blood of the youth to stop aging. And
so Powell has not substantiated these claims. These are the claims of Michael K. Easton only.
But this is stuff we laughed at when we saw in some cheesy old movie, or in when you're studying medieval times, you're like, who believes this? How could they believe this nonsense? And here we are, and there's millions of them out there.
That's so funny too. As you're medieval times, what the world's flat? That lady literally says, "Oh, what they told me the world was flat." The guy's like, "You would believe that?" Well, what? Yeah. So stupid. Anyway,
there's a lot of interesting stuff, like the free speech debate. I find fascinating because I'm not sure where I fall in that. How much should you curtail? If someone's post, I believe in free speech 100%. But posting actual threats on this 8chan board, and they're going to go shoot up a mosque or something. At what point does free speech? Do you have to stop it? Do you have to curtail it at some point? And these guys, they wanted to be free speech activists and come across as heroes,
right?
But they really just came across as having no soul and not caring. They're living. Even the one guy even says, I couldn't differentiate. Being online didn't mean anything because it wasn't real.
Yeah.
And they can't see how it really impacted the actual real world outside of the internet.
He's the most interesting person in the series. Like,
right.
That's what kept me watching. This was the creator of 8chan, right? Is it? Yeah.
Right.
And it's very interesting to see his journey, how he has changed like his outlook, and that especially when he has to make that realization, like, and you could see that like people, keyboard warriors that can.
He was like, wow, my actions online have consequences outside of a computer.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. That was pretty interesting stuff. Anyway, it's worth checking out if you want to learn a little bit about that stuff, and you actually kind of get a couple answers.
But this will be studied forever. Like, there will be books and like, this is not over. Like, this time period in history will be poured over. If we have future journalists,
right,
it will be so this is just kind of the first draft of this kind of history of this time, I think.
The robots will document this. I've been watching a couple shows. One, there's a new show on HBO called Made for Love.
Gogoltech's newest endeavor is a chip implanted into couples' brains to merge their thoughts.
Hazel and I are users one. Our minds will be one.
Technology has improved the way we live. Why not improve the way we love?
Together, we will become a singular living God.
I want it out, and I want a divorce. What happened in there?
It's a lot to explain.
Planes, shotguns, acting like you're running for your life.
Hazel!
Have you ever thought of just lowering your standards in terms of general happiness?
He's watching us right now for a chip that he implanted in my brain.
I've been working on this my whole...
It's got a fave of mine, Kristen Milotti. She was in Palm Springs. She seems to be the go-to girl for sci-fi type concept ideas here. And it's basically instead of Google, it's Gogol.
Yeah.
She's on the run after 10 years in a marriage to a tech billionaire, and he's got a new device that he wants to offer to the public, to implant in your significant other's brain to know their thoughts, so you can be just very close.
In sync.
Keep no secrets from each other.
No secrets.
So
Can't wait.
How would that work, Michael?
Yeah, how would I go over? You'd be watching Kong, and you hear, turn that down. Anyway,
let's just say if I had that chip, I would not have been together for 20 years.
But they dropped 3 episodes. It seems to be the thing. Dropped 3 episodes right after Get Back to get people interested. That was last week. This week they dropped 3 more.
Oh, they did. I haven't watched those. I saw the first 3.
Yeah, I watched the first 3 as well.
Yeah, I've watched the first 6, and there's 2 more next week. And that's it.
Okay.
There's Ray Romano, plays her father.
Yeah, I always like him in everything.
Good. He's good.
So.
You know what show I miss? Men of a Certain Age, I think it was called. It was him and Andre Brower and Sam Beckett. What's his real name? Bakula.
Yeah,
I like that show.
Mm-hmm.
It was canceled far too early, but anyway, it's a pretty good show. Like, I was hoping for more. I'm a little sick of the funny thing. Like, it's got a Silicon Valley feel where it's techie. There's this stuff going on, but it's still so jokey. Like the villains are so laughable.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I found the most entertaining part to be the darker parts.
Yes, absolutely, 100%. That's what I want to see. So maybe I'm just getting sick of that genre where they go so jokey with it. But it's definitely worth watching. I like that type of stuff.
I haven't watched all of it, but the husband doesn't have much going on. Like he's not a great villain yet to me, because I don't quite get his motivation, or he's just kind of a blank slate so far.
I will say that I like the take that I thought, because the first episode, I think first very early on, it's like, can she get away? And it's like, well, it's really not what you think. It's not just like he's the most horrible person ever. He's not super villain. He just villain. He's not out to just do whatever he wants. He just wants what he wants.
And it definitely has that timely, topical idea of abuse and people not believing the woman when she tells them. It was like, she's rich and has a nice husband. Like, what's she got to be worried about? Right. But it's definitely my nightmare scenario of like a world where everything is technology that you can't escape. You're online 24/7, people watching and listening to you, and everything's wired, everything is in the cloud, everything's terrifying to
storm. You're in the storm.
Yeah, the storm. Yeah.
Okay, one other show I want to say that I've been watching. I have never watched this show. It's one of the most highly rated television shows ever, and I had never seen a single episode. I missed it. Somewhere along the way, I missed it. It was Breaking Bad before Breaking Bad was a thing. Does anybody know what I'm talking about?
Shield.
The Shield.
Am I right?
Yes.
All right.
And it was on, well, I don't even know what it was on, what channel it was on the time. It's on Hulu now.
Was it on FX maybe? It was one of the early FX.
I was trying to think if there was FX at the time, but yeah, I think it was FX. But it's Michael Chiklis, and it's a story of inner city Los Angeles police precinct where the cops are kind of bad. Like, some of the cops are doing bad things and, to profit themselves, or just not doing things the right way, but they're not total villains. He is still, doing good along the way. And I've watched the first season. I think there's like 8 seasons. It came out in like 2002, I think. But guess what? It's pretty good. It's a good show. I'm really enjoying it. I like it. I never was a huge Chiklis fan, but and some of it's not always an A+ as far as acting, and it's definitely aged. Like, the music is like, ball with the doll, but dang it. It's very of its time, but it's still very good. I'm excited to watch it. Every season is rated high. So it doesn't look like right off the bat there's a lot of dead air in there. So I'm excited to watch it. Did anybody watch it?
No, I know when it was on, it was always never highly rated, but real critically acclaimed. But yeah, I never got to it yet.
The only thing I know of it is an Office quote when Ryan says something about bashing skulls Chiklis style, and Michael Scott says, "Yeah, the commish," and he goes, "No, the Shield."
Right.
So.
All right, last thing I had was Superstore final episode, series finale.
Now, was that announced that this was good, like, ahead of time?
I didn't
because it shocked us that this was.
This was only 15 episodes. This was the 6th season. It only went 15 episodes, kind of like half the run.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was kind of weird to have America Ferrera leave, and then assume the show was going to go on without her, and then it just kind of wrapped up immediately afterwards. So it was an odd ramp down, but I think the final episode was very satisfying. I enjoyed the finale a lot.
It's one of the best TV series finales I think I've ever seen. I realize I have somewhat of an attachment to not just that show, but the last 2 episodes. As someone who's been in retail and worked retail most of their adult life, there was always a little bit of truth in the daily activities, the characters, and all that, even though it's outrageous.
I didn't work at that type of store, but I've worked in a restaurant, the same restaurant, for 12 years, and so I definitely related to it in that way. And I'm sure a lot of workplace people where you don't go anywhere, where you are in the same location with people for years and years.
Yeah.
That, you know, spend more time with them than with your family, and have quirky relationships with people you would not even talk to normally.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
It was nice. It was a good show for that, showing how you would still be talking to these people and, you know, having to deal with the issues of the day, whether you like it or not. And of course it was hilarious, but to watch that finale, and you don't always get a finale that is just a feel good finale. Like,
yeah,
to see a optimistic look at how it could be if a place like that, you know, the restaurant I worked at closed, you know, and everybody has to go their separate ways. And this, you know, this type of situation, it was neat to just see how these relationships could prevail.
That situation, it respected that situation as a real life thing that happens all the time in cities everywhere. But
and you have to think about, like, as the show, even this show, how many times I imagine making a television show is the same situation. You're going there to it, spending all this time with people. I've heard many actors say, like, they go to a movie or a TV show and you spend all this time every day with people, and then you never see them again, you know, and you know, so it's sad when it gets canceled.
Yeah, and the show as a whole, the series, I feel like hasn't been around all that long. Like, I had a weird relationship with. I really liked it. I thought it was funny, but it was almost kind of, it was a little up and down at times. And like, you're right. It kind of sprung out of nowhere. She was announced she was leaving the show. The pandemic happened. Then they were it was one of the few shows I was watching where they were showing the pandemic. The characters in the store wearing masks. They're not wearing, but they're social distancing. They're cleaning. They're doing all that regular everyday stuff. It was one of the few shows out there that was acknowledging that and not pretending like it didn't happen.
Yeah.
Oh my God, Krista was just watching the episode the other day where, forget her name already, but anyway, she had cleaned all the carts, and the lady came in and said, "Oh, are these like disinfected?" And then she's like, "Oh, that one's got a squeaky wheel. Oh, that doesn't feel right." Like, I mean, she touches all of them because she knows that stuff happens. I do kind of wonder, like, with this season, they tried it without the actress to see if they could continue it on, and saw that maybe the ratings weren't the same, and that they said, "Okay, well, maybe we should just kind of."
Yeah, I can't imagine this was plan A. I imagine something happened, but
how many shows can?
At least they got to go out on their own terms. Yes. You know, they weren't left hanging or something. Yeah.
How many shows cannot survive the angsty couple getting together or resolving whatever the relationship is? Like, it's so completely ruined once they get together. Like, things fall apart and nobody watches anymore.
Yeah. So. I watched
very much like I very much like the going back and watching their interviews.
Great.
The old footage. I don't know I don't know if that was like audition footage or what, some kind of old video they had of all the actors, but it was a neat touch to.
Attention shoppers, please bring your final purchases up to checkout because this store is about to close forever. And on behalf of everyone here at Cloud9, I'd just like to say bye-bye.
Look back again on a show that's not that old, but it felt like, wow, that was so long ago.
Yeah.
Yep.
Sorry, that shouldn't be the last thing I say. 20 years of announcements. I mean, I'm not a sentimental guy. That's not my thing. But it did just occur to me that this is the end. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's a job. If jobs were fun, they wouldn't pay us to do it, but occasionally there were moments that weren't so bad. And for whatever reason, those are the only things I can remember right now. You know, most jobs suck 99% of the time. So you really got to enjoy those moments that don't. Those bits of fun you have during downtime. Or an interesting conversation with a coworker. something happens that you can laugh about later.
Oh, that's a picture of my honeymoon. Sorry about that.
Or you do something that you're actually proud of.
Looking great, guys. Keep up the good work.
If you're lucky, maybe you even get to be friends with a coworker or two along the way. Not sure what else you could want in a job. At any rate, thank you for shopping with us. Cloud 9 is now closed.
All right.
As always, I'm the most illustrious Michael K. Easton.
My name is Jordan Q. Lowe.
I'm Cliff
He leads. Those machines. I'm cool but rude. Bye forever.
Was that this episode? It feels like a long time ago.
It was. I think it was. It does feel like a long time. Shake it off.
KPP is officially closed.
Jordanardo leads. Cliff Tello does machines. I guess that makes me Raphael. I'm cool but rude. Michael is a
Easton
party
is
dude.
a party dude.
That's right.
Heroes in a half shell.
Ka-Pow, the pop cultured podcast, is intended for entertainment and information purposes only. Sounds, music, and clips played during the podcast are property of copyright holders. All original content is property of www.udownwithkpp.com. If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe and leave a comment. Ka-Pow, the pop cultured podcast, is available on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Podbean, Spotify, and wherever podcasts can be found. You can connect with us through social media on Facebook, YouTube, at the Ka-Pow Podcast on Twitter, or email the show, Ka-Pow, the pop cultured podcast, at gmail.com. If you really want to go the extra mile, please sign up to be a patron through the Podbean app or our website, www.udownwithkpp.com, to receive special content and early access to some episodes. We are grateful to anyone that chooses to contribute, but please know that most of our content will always remain free, so please continue to like, comment, and share.